Yo, what's going on, you guys? Today we have why I feel more free in Britain than I do in America. I don't know what to expect. I usually love watching her videos. Her videos, it's a different perspective. She's an American who's living in Britain, so her perspective is unique. She have a unique perspective, and that's why I love watching her videos. And she's hilarious. She should be funny. So I usually love watching her videos. Yeah, man, the original video will be linked down below in the description. Without further ado, let's get straight to the video. Come on.
I can cross the road wherever I want to cross the road. I can look to see if there's traffic with my own eyes, and I can just decide to walk across that road with no fear of a fine or a ticket or getting in trouble. Which sounds more free to you? Hi and welcome back to the Girl Gone London channel. Today I am discussing all the ways in which I feel more free in the UK than in the USA. And this is a funny topic, I suppose, because America associates itself with freedom and the fact that Americans are free. But I was thinking about whether I would want to move back to America, and it has changed at various points in my life here in the UK. If you don't know, I am a dual UK and US citizen, so technically I could live in either country, and I have chosen for multiple reasons, but some of these in this video to be in the UK. When I think about moving to America, there are some things that come up that I'm not entirely sure I could deal with, and that made me realize that actually my life here in the UK seems more free than it would be in the USA. So let's get started. Number one, and this is probably the biggest way in which I feel I have more freedom here in the UK, has to do with healthcare. Now, the reason I was thinking about this is not just the fact that I can go to the doctor here and not pay anything, or have a surgery and not pay anything. It's also to do with the fact that I am self-employed. And so if you're self-employed in a place like the UK that has a nationalized healthcare system, it means that you don't have to factor this in to your job, or what it means if you lose a job or gain a job or anything like that. And if you're British, you're probably a little bit confused if you're not familiar with how it works in the US. So in the US, having health insurance is essentially mandatory to be able to go to the doctor, to get surgeries, like to get help. If you don't have anything at all, technically you can still get emergency help, but it's a whole big thing. So in general, you need health insurance. Right. Typically, health insurance is going to be attached to a job, but it's going to be attached to a salaried job, and it's considered part of the perks of the job. So people in the US who are self-employed or freelancers or not in a traditional 9-to-5 salaried position still need health insurance, but it doesn't come with your job as a perk. So you then have to source that health insurance for yourself, pay the monthly fees, which can be extortionate. So we're not talking like $50 a month here. We're talking at least in the multiple hundreds per month in order to have health insurance in case you have any sort of medical need. So if I were to move to the US right now, I would feel a lot less free financially because I would have to be paying, again, extortionate amounts for health insurance every month. And I might not even have the freedom to be self-employed in the US because of how much extra that adds on per month and per year to your costs.
Nah, that's 100% right. Yeah, because jobs usually provide you with health insurance, and if you're self-employed, like she said, you're gonna have to go find that health insurance and pay that money for it. Yeah, she's 100% right.
After you have the health insurance in America, you still often have what we call a copay, which is the money you still need to pay towards the doctor's appointment or towards the surgery or towards the hospital visit or whatever it is. So let's say that your insurance does cover your doctor, you might still have a $50 copay, which means that you still need to pay out of pocket $50 every time you have a doctor's appointment. And yes, the insurance will cover the rest, but you're still paying out of pocket. Here in the UK, if I have any sort of issue that I need to see a doctor for, I don't worry about budgeting for it. I'm just able to go. And in that way, I think that I get much better healthcare here in the UK because I'm not worried about the financial aspect of it. I don't second guess whether I really need to be seen or can just like fix myself on WebMD, because it doesn't cost me money at the point of interaction here in the UK.
That's facts though, man. I mean, to me, it's still like, I still don't know how it works over there though, the UK for real. Cause like here, I only know one way. Here is more like, oh yeah, get health insurance, pay it monthly. When you need to go to the doctor, pay your copay. Then insurance covers the rest. It's amazing to me that you can just wake up, go to the doctor, and not worry about paying nothing, man. And you don't have a monthly payment for insurance. That's amazing to me, man. I can't even imagine that, honestly. So it's like, bro, that's amazing, man. That's amazing.
Through your taxes, you pay through it in other ways. Everybody always says the NHS isn't free. It's not free overall, but it is free to each individual at the point of interaction. So it's much different to the American system, which is not free at any point, and even if you have health insurance, you are often still paying out of pocket. The next thing on my list, and this is much more trivial, but it does have to do with the public access to land here in the UK. Watch my countryside video that I posted recently if you haven't seen that, where I talk about the public access to footpaths here in the UK, meaning that you can essentially roam or walk through privately owned land a lot of times because you have right of way as the public on a footpath. And
yeah, I did see something like that, man. I was shocked and confused, cause here, you can't do that at all. You can't do that. If it's a privately owned property, and you going through that property, you walking through that property, that's called trespassing, bro. They take that very serious here.
It is not like this at all. Private land is basically private land, and you can go to, of course, a park or a national park or something like that, but you can't usually just leave your house or pick a particular spot and keep wandering for a long time. It's a much more private system that has no public access or right of way in that sense. So I feel like I can move a little bit more freely in the UK when it comes to walking. And also, my third reason that I feel more free in the UK than in the USA is public transportation. So America, for the most part, is run on cars. Now, a lot of the UK is also run on cars. If you go to Cornwall, you're probably going to want a car. There are buses, but a car is going to get you places much faster. However, the vast majority of the UK is really well connected by trains, by buses, and by other forms of transportation than a car. So it means here I have more options. Maybe I still do want to take a car into the countryside, but if I didn't have one, I could check out the local buses. I could check out the trains. The train system in the UK can get you very, very far into tons of different places, as you saw in my Great Missenden video the other day. I can go to this countryside feeling village 40 minutes on the train from London, no car necessary. The next thing on my list, and this doesn't really apply to me because I don't really drink, but
one thing for real though, we do need to fix our transportation system, man. Like, I be trying to go outside I live in Florida. I be trying to go outside of Florida on trains, on buses, and it's very difficult to do that. I'm sure you can find a way to do it, but it should not be that hard. There should be a station you just go to the train station. You're gonna drop you over there. Go and drop you to Georgia, drop you to New York, or drop you somewhere. But it's just so difficult for no reason.
Putting this list together for your average American versus British life, in the UK, the drinking age is 18, whereas in America, it is 21. So in that way, the UK seems more free and at an earlier age. The next thing on my list, again, has to do with my employment. And this really, as I've mentioned, is what has gotten me thinking about this subject. And this is to do with employment rights and paid leave. So when you talk about freedom in the UK...
Yeah. Before she even say, you guys got that.
Okay, if I were to work a traditional 9-to-5 salaried position, I would be guaranteed by the government 28 paid days of annual leave per year. In the US, if I were in the same exact position, a salaried 9-to-5 job, there are no federal government requirements for how many days I could have off. That again is seen as like a perk of the job, so you hope to pick a job that offers you enough leave or enough days off, or vacation days as we call it in America, but there is no federal mandate for how many days this has to be. It could be 0.
Yeah.
And even when you do tend to get vacation days included in your job in America, it usually is much less than in the UK.
Bro, I was so shocked, bro, when I was hearing like you guys have 28 days of paid vacation. Not only 28 days of vacation, paid vacation. I'm like, what? That's amazing, man. Don't take that for granted. Not everywhere is like that. Definitely not here.
In the UK and in Europe, actually, people tend to think of like the summer holidays or the winter holidays or whatever it is as people can take multiple week trips sometimes. But in my experience, Americans almost never have that 28 days off per year, or even more in some other European countries. They are going to have fewer days. And so their trips need to be a bit shorter, maybe 5 days, maybe 7 days at a max. Taking a like 2 or 3 week trip, as people can often do in the UK or in Europe, is definitely not something that happens that much. So I think to myself, if I were to move back to America tomorrow, maybe let's say I'm not self-employed anymore and I do work a traditional 9-to-5 job, I would feel in that way less free than I have felt in the jobs that I've worked here in the UK. And that would be a huge and hard adjustment to make. The next thing on my list is the lower higher education fees here in the UK, which I can personally attest to because I did do my full master's degree here in the UK, so I know how much it costs here, even as an international student, versus how much doing a master's degree would cost in the USA. I've mentioned this in my video about things that are cheaper in the UK than in the USA, but higher education is definitely one of those. So when you compare the costs here in the UK to the $50,000, $60,000 per year cost for some universities in the US, I mean, which one seems more doable to you? Which one seems like that country has more freedom? I don't know. There's a lot of good things about America, but the more I make this list, I'm like, there's a lot of ways in which there is so much more freedom here in the UK that maybe people don't realize. And of course, the most obvious one, I have left it to this point on the list, has to do with firearms. So yes, there is crime in the UK. Yes, there is an increase in different types of crimes in different cities. It's nothing compared to how you feel in America at all times, knowing that firearms are allowed to be held by your average citizen. And what I will say is that when you live in America for long periods of time, or you grow up there, this is a fact of life you have to get used to. So do you necessarily go around fearing this all of the time? Not necessarily, because you do have to become kind of immune to that fear in order to live your life. But now that I've lived in the UK and I can go to the movie theater, I can go to the mall, I can go to a restaurant without fearing some sort of gun violence incident. When I go back to the US now, I am very aware. So if I go to like a crowded movie theater or a crowded mall, I do look around and I think of what could potentially happen.
Nah, that's facts. That's facts. Every time now, back then when I was younger, no, but now that I'm older, one thing that I've always make sure to be aware of stuff like that. When I go to movie theaters now, nah, bro, I gotta make sure. Like, I gotta make sure that I'm like, especially if I got people with me, right? I gotta make sure that I sit in certain spots, because if something like happens, you know, you closer to the door and stuff like that, right? And yeah, I'm like, right now I'm just more aware of stuff like that, man. But hey, like you said, man, like she said, you know, she don't have to worry about that over there. So I guess, yeah, that would be your mind is more free.
In a way that I thought when I lived in America, as I said, so you do have to become immune to it a little bit. But now that I've experienced a place where that fear is not always present, it doesn't make sense to me to go back to that fear, and it doesn't make me feel more free to think of a life in America where I would have to be, or feel like I would have to second guess the places I would go and how crowded they are and who might have access to them. And to counter that, another trivial one is jaywalking. So in America, there are lots of laws in different states that you cannot simply cross the road wherever you would like to cross the road. By law, you have to cross the road at a dedicated crossing. And if you don't, you could run the risk of getting yourself a ticket or some sort of fine. You're likely not going to be put in jail for jaywalking, but it's still something that is codified as not legal. So again, you're looking at some sort of punishment, or at least a slap on the wrist from a police officer. In the UK, I can cross the road wherever I want to cross the road. I can look to see if there's traffic with my own eyes, and I can just decide to walk across that road with no fear of a fine or a ticket or getting in trouble. Which sounds more free to you? And finally, the last thing on my list, and this is an interesting one. We might do a religion in the UK versus the USA video at some point in time, but it's a little bit of a nuanced topic because we'll take England as an example. England has an official religion, the Church of England. America doesn't have an official religion. However, Americans tend to be more religious. So again, there's layers to this topic. However, when it comes to people in power, in the UK, I feel like there is much more of a freedom of becoming somebody in power, whether that's at a more local level or a national level, regardless of your religion. The current leader of the Labour Party who are in power is an atheist. Rishi Sunak is a Hindu. It doesn't necessarily play into people's minds what somebody's personal, private religious beliefs are when it comes to their ability to lead. You might have problems with people based on a number of other reasons, but typically religion, again, is seen as private, and in some ways that gives more freedom for people of all different religions to achieve lots of different things and hold this position of power. In America, it can tend to be more difficult for someone to be in a position of power without being a part of the majority religion, which is Christianity. So it doesn't always come into play. I'm not saying that it's never happened.
Nah, she's right. I mean, it works. I think it works like that because the majority of people in the United States are Christian. So politicians are smart. They know that if they're not, they gotta be relatable. If they're not smart, if they're not Christian, most likely they won't be elected. Because Christians will vote for other Christians. Because people would vote for people who uphold their moral values. You feel me? So, like for example, if an atheist try to run for office, public office, most likely it will not work here because most people believe in God. You understand? You feel me? So in the UK, since like she said, since most people are not religious, then it can it gives you more leeway for anybody could just to run for office. Is that more freedom? I don't know. I guess you could tell that's like in that aspect it's more freedom because now that the population is not that much religious, I guess anybody could just run for office based on how your ability to lead. You feel me? So yeah, I would agree with her. Yeah.
Do have different religious beliefs and have held office, but people do think about it more. They do question it more. And there has currently been no president that has declared themselves as an atheist or not having a religion, and to me that would seem like something that would not be possible right now in America. Okay, that brings me to the end of this video. There are lots of positive things about America. I do miss it. I do miss things about it, but I was thinking about what I would have to give up in order to move back there, and it's definitely not something that I would currently want to do for all the reasons listed. As always, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
This was a good video. This was a very good video. Again, I love watching her videos because of the unique perspective that she has. Since she has lived here, she lives in the UK, and yeah, I mean, she made very valid points. Again, I don't live in the UK, so there's certain things I can't have that perspective because I haven't even visited the UK, but I do plan on visiting. I do plan on actually experiencing the culture over there and see how it is and stuff like that, man. But I mean, she's right in a lot of the things that she said when it comes to the gun thing, man. When you go to movie theaters, man, you gotta stay alert. When you go to a place that has a large crowd, you have to be alert. You have to stay alert. But yeah, this was a good video, man. I love her perspectives. So yeah, thank you so much for watching with me. I appreciate it. We're on our way to 10,000 subscribers, so please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.